Government maintains GDP target for 2020. Drug syndicate crippled in Pulau Pinang. Good evening, welcome to News on 2. I'm Jessica Lee. The government will stick to its initial 4.8% gross domestic product or GDP growth target for 2020, despite the World Bank having revised its forecast to 4.5%. Finance Minister Lim Guan Eng said the government would only revise the target if the 4.7 GDP growth projection for this year was not achieved.
I think we'll stick to our target, and that will depend on our growth performance, economic growth performance for 2019. So I'm sure if we maintain our growth target of 4.7% for 2019, likely we'll maintain our 4.8% target. If that target is not achieved, then of course then we may need to have a look at it again.
The World Bank has revised Malaysia's GDP growth forecast for 2020 to 4.5% from its earlier prediction of 4.6% due to weaker than anticipated investment and export growth in the third quarter of 2019. In its Malaysia Economic Monitor 2019, it said that subdued trade prospects and increased uncertainty have weighed on business confidence and investment intentions. Now, Malaysia will proceed to file criminal charges against the Goldman Sachs Group over the One Malaysia Development Berhad issue, despite reports that the firm intended to reach an out-of-court settlement with the United States Department of Justice, or DOJ. Finance Minister Lim Guan Eng said he had contacted the Attorney General's chambers, and they have said that this case is expected to be heard mid of next year.
So, kes ini masih berjalan. Kita tidak ada dapat sebarang maklumat dan pihak kerajaan Malaysia masih menuntut pembayaran sehingga 7.5 bilion US dollar. Ini sebagai balasan ke atas kerugian yang kita alami daripada skandal 1MDB hanya daripada Goldman Sachs sahaja.
He was commenting on media reports that Goldman Sachs could end up paying less than $2 billion to resolve an investigation over its role in raising money for 1MDB. Goldman Sachs is facing criminal charge for allegedly issuing bonds totaling $6.5 billion for 1MDB. Now, the High Court heard today that the 1 million ringgit paid to a law firm implicated in Datuk Seri Ahmad Zahid Hamidi's corruption case was a political donation to the former Deputy Prime Minister. Datuk Seri Ahmad Zahid's lawyer Hisham Teh, in questioning prosecution witness and Maybank officer Harriet Muhammad Arbi on the purpose of the cheque from a company, Profound Radiance Sdn Berhad, had suggested that the 1 million ringgit was a political fund. The witness was then referred to a copy of the company's cheque, but in court, it said political fund to TPM, according to Harriet, in reading out what was written on the copy. The bank officer said the 1 million ringgit cheque dated the 3rd of January 2018 was paid under the client's account to the law firm Lewis & Company. Datuk Seri Ahmad Zahid, who is UMNO president, is accused of receiving a total of 2 million ringgit in bribes from Profound Radiance director Azlan Shah Jafril as an inducement to appoint the firm to operate the one-stop centre for Pakistani and Nepali workers. It was alleged that the cheques from Profound Radiance were deposited into Lewis & Company's bank account. A magistrate was charged by the Kuantan Sessions Court for 8 counts of bribery involving more than 290,000 ringgit. Now, based on the charges, Muhammad Amin Shahul Hamid, 38, was believed to have asked around 185,000 ringgit in bribes and received 110,000 ringgit from a contraband seller, Hassan Basri Ahmad Sultan Modo, who was an accused under his case management. Muhammad Amin was charged to have accepted the bribe from Hassan to prevent himself from facing jail term, despite the charges being made under Section 135 Subsection 1D of the Customs Act 1967 for possessing prohibited contraband. If found guilty, Hassan would face a fine of more than 20 times the value of the prohibited goods or a jail term of maximum 3 years or both. The act of asking and receiving the bribe was believed to have taken place between July and October this year at several areas in Raub. Judge Hakim Muhammad Ghazali allowed Muhammad Amin bail of 25,000 ringgit for each charge and instructed the accused to present his passport to the court. The charges were made under Section 16, Subsection A of the MACC Act, Act 695. If found guilty, the accused can be sentenced to a jail term of not more than 20 years and a fine of not less than 5 times the bribery amount or 10,000 ringgit, whichever is higher for each charge. The Election Commission, or EC, will hold a special meeting this Monday to discuss important dates for the Kimanis parliamentary by-election. Its Secretary, Dato' Muhammad Ilyas Abu Bakar, in a statement said the Commission Chairman, Dato' Azhar Azizan Harun, would chair the meeting scheduled at 10 a.m. at Menara SPR in Putrajaya. The meeting would decide on important dates for the by-elections, such as the date of issuing the election writ, nomination day, polling day and the electoral roll to be used in the election, as well as other necessary preparations. The Federal Court had recently upheld the Kota Kinabalu Election Court's ruling nullifying Datuk Sri Anifah Aman's victory in the Kimanis parliamentary seat during the 14th general election in May last year. Now, police believe they have crippled a drug trafficking syndicate in Pulau Pinang following the arrest of a man as well as seizure of various drugs worth 2.22 million ringgit on Tuesday. In the raid at a premise in Bukit Tambun, Seberang Perai Selatan, police had seized 17.522 grams of shabu, 23,606 ecstasy pills and 1,001 gram of MDMA powder. Director of Bukit Aman Narcotics Crime Investigation Department, NCID, Dato' Muhammad Halil Kadir Mohamad said the raid was carried out by Pulau Pinang and Selangor NCID following the seizure of 10 plastic bags containing 10,000 grams of drugs believed to be shabu in Petaling Jaya last month.
Dadah yang berjaya dirampas di Pulau Pinang ialah 17,522 gram shabu bernilai RM876,100, 23,606 biji pil ekstasi yang bernilai RM1,180,300 dan 1,001 gram serbuk MDMA bernilai RM167,000. Jadi jumlah keseluruhan yang dirampas di Pulau Pinang bernilai RM2,223,400.
He said the amount of drugs seized could have been used by 114,560 addicts. The suspect, aged 44, was remanded for 7 days under Section 117 of the Criminal Procedures Act for further investigation under Section 39B of the Dangerous Drugs Act 1952. 2 sisters were killed when their house at Sungai Betul Bawah, Tanjung Piandang, Kuala Kurau, caught fire early this morning. The victims were identified as Aisha Din, 80 years old, and her sister Ida, 56 years old, a person with disability. The bodies of the 2 victims were found near the main door of the house at about 2:15 a.m. The flames already engulfed 80% of the house when the firefighters reached the site. Kharian District Chief Police Superintendent Omar Bakhtiar said the remains of the 2 victims were sent to Paribunta Hospital for further action, adding that the cause of the fire is still being investigated. The upgraded RON 95 petrol with European Fuel Standard Specifications, or Euro 4M or E4M, will be introduced at petrol stations nationwide starting January next year. Domestic Trade and Consumer Affairs Ministry Secretary General Datuk Muiz Abdul Aziz said the E4M RON 95, which is equivalent in quality with RON 97, will replace the current E2 standard petrol. Commenting further on the matter, Dato' Muiz said the new E4M RON 95 petrol has environmental quality care benefits as it reduces smoke production and provides cleaner engine maintenance. He also said industry players are preparing to carry out the sale of the higher grade petrol, where works at the depot and gas stations level had been or are being done. Prior to this, Domestic Trade and Consumer Affairs Minister Datuk Seri Saifuddin Nasution Ismail reportedly said that the introduction of the higher quality fuel is one of the efforts to achieve the goal of National Green Technology Policy 2009, which is reducing environmental pollution and its impact on public health. The goal is also the 39th promise in the Pakatan Harapan Manifesto, which is balancing economic development with environmental protection. The Domestic Trade and Consumer Affairs Ministry Secretary General added that action could be taken to any company found to violate these directives under the Environmental Quality Act 1974. Now, the major obstacle facing the Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture in its efforts to promote the Visit Malaysia Year or VMY 2020 campaign is lack of funding for promotion and advertising purposes, which was reduced from the previous year. Deputy Minister Muhammad Bakhtiar Wanchik explained to the Senate that the lack of resources has made it difficult for the ministry to aggressively pursue global advertising campaign activities.
Di samping itu, kos pengiklanan di platform digital dan media antarabangsa yang tinggi berbanding peruntukan yang tidak mencukupi serta faktor penyusutan nilai ringgit Malaysia berbanding US dolar telah pun menghadkan lagi perancangan kementerian untuk mempelbagaikan medium pengiklanan global maupun meningkatkan visibility kempen VM 2020 di mata dunia.
He was replying Senator Dato' John Ambrose. Muhammad Bakhtiar added, as a result, the ministry has opted for more cost-effective advertising mediums to promote the country's tourism attractions. This will be focused on the targeted countries like ASEAN and Northern Asian countries, which are expected to generate instant revenue to the tourism industry. Thus, the ministry urged for wholesome involvement from the tourism industry players, corporate companies and all Malaysians, especially in making VMY 2020 a success. Now, the proposed amendments to the Education Act 1996 to, among others, make it compulsory for parents to send their children to obtain primary and secondary education are currently being produced by the National Education Policy Committee. Education Deputy Minister Teo Nee Ching said also included in the proposed amendment draft was vocational training to be introduced as an option for students.
Kita telah sediakan draft ruang undang-undang pendidikan pindaan pendidikan wajib 11 tahun kepada murid-murid bermula di sekolah rendah sehingga tamat sekolah menengah di peringkat SPM. Walau bagaimanapun, draft RUU tersebut hanya akan dibentangkan di Parlimen setelah laporan Jawatankuasa Kajian Dasar Pendidikan selesai diteliti dan diambil kira oleh KPM. Dan setakat ini kita memang juga telah mengambil kira bahawa selepaslah sekolah menengah rendah juga untuklah peringkat 16 tahun dan juga 17 tahun kita jugalah mengambil kira bahawa vocational training sebagai salah satu option.
She said this in a response to a supplementary question from Senator Adnan Etok, who wanted to know initial findings of a study on making it compulsory for children to go to school until the age of 17. The senator also wanted to know if the study took into account skills training as part of the compulsory schooling period. The Ministry of Health is committed to continue to implement the Live Life, Stay Safe training module, which emphasizes on reproductive health and safety of children and adolescents with disabilities. The module is expected to be implemented continuously every year, involving healthcare providers at the premier health units.
Manual ini pada asasnya membimbing ibu bapa, guru-guru, anggota kesihatan untuk mengajar kanak-kanak ini berkenaan kesihatan seksual reproduktif kanak-kanak dan remaja OKU, orang kelainan upaya. Ya, apa itu sentuhan? Sentuhan apa yang diizinkan, apa yang tidak, apa yang mesti dianggap satu yang merupakan advancement dengan izin yang salah. What is no dan sebagainya. Percakapan, apa yang boleh diizinkan dan juga penglihatan yang dibolehkan dan yang tidak dibolehkan. Aspek keselamatan diri, safety, dan cara-cara mengenal pasti risiko. Risiko berbahaya sejak dari usia kecil lagi. Mereka dididik untuk memahami apa sentuhan, apa percakapan, apa yang boleh diizinkan dan apa yang tidak.
The minister added that the training module is among the medium used to create awareness to the community, especially all caregivers of children and adolescents with disabilities, about personal safety and fostering early knowledge of their rights to take care of their own bodies. Datuk Sri Dr. Zulkifli was replying to Senator Nurida Mohamed Saleh, who wanted to know on the impact of the module on sexual health awareness program for children and adolescents with special needs. The module, which was implemented since 2016, has been extended to teachers of special needs children under the Ministry of Education, staffs of nursing institutions, volunteers and university students. The Live Life Stay Safe training module was initially created by the Health Ministry back in 2009. It is not compulsory for athletes to wear Sharia-compliant attire. Deputy Youth and Sports Minister Stephen Sim Chi Keong told the Dewan Negara that the ministry, however, have no problem if the Sharia-compliant outfits are in accordance with the standards set by the governing bodies. Nevertheless, he stressed that the athletes will not be forced to be in Sharia-compliant attire. He said athletes competing at international sporting events were subjected to dress code set by the respective sports governing bodies.
Akan nampak bahawa memang ada trend atlet-atlet tertentu yang memilih secara sukarela untuk mengenakan pakaian berkonsepkan patuh kepada konsep agama masing-masing, tertakluk kepada peraturan yang saya sebut tadi. Dan saya nak bagi satu contoh di sini. Contohnya pasukan bola jaring negara kita yang telah mengharumkan negara dalam Sukan SEA kali ini memenangi pingat emas kepada negara. Ramai di antara atlet-atlet mereka, wanita, perempuan beragama Islam, mereka mengenakan head scarf yang sesuai dan telah pun dipersetujui dalam arena ataupun mengikut peraturan sukan dalam netball itu.
He was replying to a question from Senator Lim Pei Hen. Responding to a supplementary question on whether the ministry planned to set up an advisory panel to help formulate guidelines on Sharia-compliant attire in the country, Sim said the ministry has no plans to do so at the moment. The Deputy Minister said sports organisations always respect the religions of athletes competing in any sporting event at the state, national and international levels. In other news, the Yani Pertuan Agong Al-Sultan Abdullah Riyatuddin Al-Mustafa Bilal Shah held a meeting with the Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby, at his official residence, the Lambeth Palace in London. The half-hour meeting, among others, was to exchange views on the multicultural and multi-religious society in Malaysia and the United Kingdom. His Majesty was then given a tour inside the palace, including the Great Hall, which is part of the Lambeth Palace Library, and the guard room, where soldiers gathered and stored their weapons during the time when the Archbishop had his own private army. The Archbishop of Canterbury is the principal leader of the Church of England. The Lambeth Palace Library houses the largest collection of Christian books outside of the Vatican. Al-Sultan Abdullah and Raja Pamaisuri Agong Tunku Aziza Amina Maimuna Iskandaria are currently in the UK on a special visit till the 16th of December. And that's it from us. In our top story, government maintains GDP target for 2020. Join us again at 12:30 tomorrow afternoon. I'm Jessica Lee. Thank you for watching.